Congratulations to each and every one of you. On an evening like this, it allows for us to ask the question, why is athletics so important? Why are sports so important? Why is your work? Why is your effort? Why is your commitment? Why is your passion so critical? Why does it matter so incredibly much? I want you to picture, if you will, what it was like the day the starter pistol sounded in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. I want you to imagine what it was like to dive into a frigid body of water. The water temperature of Lake Coeur d'Alene that morning was 55 degrees. Imagine the feeling you have to be swimming in total darkness, having no idea where you started, having no idea where you're going, and having absolutely no idea where you are. Imagine that sense of isolation that you experience because you're not able to communicate or talk to your guide. Imagine how it feels to be the only disabled person competing in the Ironman. To have other competitors in this rugged competition kick you over and over again in the face. Unintentionally, of course, but the nature of such a competition is for people to be competitive. Imagine the feeling you have as you keep getting kicked in the face, but being blind, you're not able to brace for the impact. Imagine the sensation that you feel when you try to come up for oxygen, but you're not able to do so because there's another swimmer who is above you. Imagine what it's like to have other swimmers become entangled in the rope that connects you to your guide. And the rope that at one time serves as an incredible lifeline now becomes a noose. And the oxygen you so desperately need becomes harder and harder to obtain. Imagine that feeling that you have as the rope starts to drag you below the surface, as the waves start crashing above you, and as every breath you get of oxygen is something that you savor because you know you won't get it again for quite some time. After you complete your 2.4 mile swim, you then board your tandem bike, where you ride for 112 miles through the mountains of Idaho. After your 2.4 mile swim and your 112 mile bike, you then do your 26.2 mile marathon. Now what's important to note about the Ironman competition is that if you take a break, if you take a rest at any point, you become in danger of missing a cutoff time. If you miss a cutoff time, you will be immediately disqualified from the competition. There are no exceptions to this. If you become disqualified, 2 years of training, 2 years of effort, 2 years of commitment are for nothing. There is something that you learn when you do your 2.4 mile swim, when you do your 112 mile bike, when you do your 26.2 mile marathon. We ask ourselves on an evening like this, why is athletics so important? Why are these competitions so critical? Why is this such an important part of our lives? Why does it matter so much to our community? Why is it so critical for Judaism? The answer, I believe, goes something like this. It's easy to have a relationship with Hashem when your life is good. It's easy to have a relationship with Hashem when you know comfort, when you know success. But what athletics teaches you is that through pain, that through struggle, through fear, through difficulty, you become closer to Hashem. You become closer to our Creator. Because what sport teaches, what sport allows for, is it allows for you to realize that no matter how challenging life gets, that no matter how difficult things become, that no matter how impossible life can ultimately seem, that Hashem will always give you what you need when you need it. Sport shows you that you will have what you need, no more, but certainly no less. Why is athletics so fundamental to Judaism? Why is athletics so fundamental to Torah? I have come to believe through my athletic experience that athletics represents life. Life at its core. Life at its essence. I think you as students can look at your lives, can look at your experiences the way that a runner would approach a marathon. For athletics represents everything that you're going to encounter. It represents the idea of tragedy, while at the same time lets you know triumph. It lets you know pain, while at the same time lets you know adulation. My favorite marathon is the New York City Marathon. And I think the New York City Marathon truly represents every phase of life that you're going to go through. I think it represents everything you're going to encounter. Every aspect of the life cycle. When you start doing the New York City Marathon, you start on Staten Island. Just like you are now. Your juniors, your seniors, your freshmen, your sophomore. You feel like there's nothing you can't do. When the starter pistol sounds, that excitement is incredible. It's new, it's exciting, it's different. You feel totally invincible. But as you keep pushing through, ultimately you hit mile 7. And when you hit mile 7, you come to realize the significance of what it is that you're doing. You tend to realize the challenge that you're now being faced with. You tend to understand the reality of what it means to do this type of a competition. The way that you, your families, your teachers understand the challenges and difficulties that set in with daily life. As you keep pushing forward, you ultimately hit mile 13. For those of you who are going to study, or you're in college, or you're starting a family, you know all too well what mile 13 is. For at mile 13, you look to the heavens and you say, Hashem, I have gone so far, I have done so much. What more can you ask of me? How much more do I have to work? How much more effort do I have to put in? You look around and you realize that you're at mile 13. You have worked so hard. You have faced so much. But yet, you're only in the borough of Brooklyn. You come to realize at mile 13 that you still have to make your way through Queens. You come to realize that you have to cross the 59th Street Bridge. You come to realize that you have to run up First Avenue. You come to realize that you have to circle the South Bronx. You come to realize that you have to cross the Madison Avenue Bridge. You come to realize that you have to get on Fifth Avenue. You come to realize that you have to go down to Central Park South. You tend to realize that you have to circle at Central Park South, over to Columbus Circle, back into the park, and finish at Tavern on the Green. What does athletics teach us? Why is it so important? Why is what you're doing matter so much to Judaism and so much to Torah? It doesn't matter if you've done 1 marathon or 17 marathons. It doesn't matter if you're young. It doesn't matter if you're old. Every one of you is going to encounter a mile 20. A mile 20 is called the runner's wall. The reason it's called the runner's wall is because every step you take at mile 20 hurts in a way that you can't describe. But something extraordinary happens at mile 20. All of you will know it. All of you will encounter it. The mile 20 occurs perhaps in many of your lives. Some of you might get sick or have family members that get sick. Some of you might have troubles in business or troubles with relationships. Mile 20 will impact you as you move forward. But what you will learn as athletes is something so fundamental. For what you will learn is how to embrace mile 20. For what you will learn is how to deal with that challenge. For what you will learn is how to handle that pain. How to handle that struggle. how to handle that which lies before you. Because what mile 20 teaches us is the same thing that Judaism teaches us. It is the simple idea that even though your body might be mortal, even though your body might be infirm, what mile 20 teaches you is if you allow for the body and the spirit to separate, if you allow for the spirit to transcend, if you allow for the spirit to guide, you will realize that the spirit can soar. The spirit can transcend. 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. I'm going to conclude with two short stories that I think help us to answer the question why the role that you serve as athletes is so fundamental to Judaism, so fundamental to Torah. One of the things that I love doing, that I have been incredibly blessed to have the chance to participate in, is to be a consultant to the Israeli Defense Forces. And the mission of this is to help integrate the forces so that people with disabilities and special needs who wish to serve in the IDF can have the chance to do so. It was ultimately found that those bases that had participated in this program, which allow for people who have either physical or cognitive disabilities to serve in a non-forward, non-combat support-related role, have contributed immensely to the Israeli Defense Forces. They've contributed to the morale and the efficiency of the bases that have participated. We ask, why is athletics so critical? Why does athletics mean so much? In order to get this program off the ground, the generals of the Kiryas said, you have our full support. You have our total buy-in. We want this to be a success. But in order for this to be a success, it's going to be up to you and your friends in the Air Force to convince each base commander that participation will contribute to combat readiness, that participation will strengthen their unit and make it better. How did you do this? How do you make this happen? How do you make this work? How do you convince base commanders to participate in a program such as this? You do it through athletics. Athletics shows people that you can be strong. Athletics shows people that you can be tenacious. Athletics shows people that you can be resilient. Athletics shows people that you can have a spirit that simply never ends, that simply never stops, that will simply transcend at every cost. I remember it was the day before the Jerusalem Marathon. I was giving a presentation such as this in the Old City. The IDF had organized the press and had rallied the people. The city was excited. The state was excited. The IDF was using the Jerusalem Marathon as a way to showcase this new program, as a way to showcase integration, as a way to showcase that the IDF and Israel are a light unto the nations. I remember presenting just like this. In the middle of the presentation, I'll always remember hearing the sounds of sirens as they would race through the streets of Jerusalem. I'll always remember hearing the wail of emergency vehicles. I'll always remember the sound of the loudspeakers as the announcements started to come through. I remember being briefed by the Air Force that Jerusalem had been subject to its most violent and vicious terrorist attack in over 15 years. A pregnant woman from Scotland was killed. 50 other people were critically injured. It was explained to me that the marathon was in fact the target because it had become a showpiece. People were excited and enthused, and because of that, it had become the target that it was. The IDF indicated to me that in this part of the world, one attack is usually a precursor to many. The security zone had been violated. The bomb exploded in the center of Jerusalem, in very close proximity to where runners were going to pick up their bibs and their tags. They said this is going to be a 26.2-mile race through the city. It will be difficult, if not impossible, to guarantee security for a course this extensive. They told me it will be the most important thing you ever do. It will be the most important race you ever participate in. We ask in our closing moments, why do athletics count? Why do athletics matter? Why should we care about sport the way that we do? It was a beautiful day in Central Park. I remember taking a walk in the pedestrian lane as I was preparing for my 18th marathon. As I was walking, I was at the bottom of a steep hill, and as I was at the bottom, a cyclist approached the top. The cyclist was going at a speed of excess of 35 miles per hour, as indicated by the New York Police Department. As he approached the hill at such a fast speed, he lost control of his bicycle. As he lost control of his bicycle, he came into the pedestrian lane where he struck me directly in the back at 35 miles per hour. Why does athletics matter? Why does it count? Why is it so significant? In a simple moment, I went from being a triathlon, an Ironman, a 17-time marathoner, to a person who had to be raced to Mount Sinai, to a person who was a trauma patient, to a person who spent 10 weeks in a hospital bed, not being able to shower, use the bathroom, not being able to put clothes on, having to face pain every single day from that accident until today. Why does athletics matter? Why does it mean so much to people? Athletics teaches us that no matter what the pain, no matter what the difficulty, no matter what the hardship, if you can work through it, if you can find your voice, if you can let your spirit guide, it's not just about finishing the race. It's not just about that competition. It's about everything that surrounds it. It's about life. It's about everything that matters that exists within life. It was a beautiful day in Jerusalem as the race commenced. We asked, why is athletics so important? Why are we here tonight? Perhaps the Jerusalem Post and the Israeli television stations and radio stations helped to explain it the best. As they saw a blind person running through the streets of Jerusalem with the IDF, they began writing in the newspapers and speaking on the radio and talking on TV that seeing a disabled person deal with his fears, deal with his challenges, deal with his pain, deal with his uncertainty through athletics gave strength to a city. Reporters wrote that it helped for mothers to send their children back to school. It helped for fathers to start going back to work. It helped for people to get back on city buses. It helped for people to find that strength of spirit within. Why is athletics so important? Why are your competitions so meaningful? Why does it mean so much to Torah and to Judaism? Perhaps the answer goes something like this. Athletics teaches all of us that Hashem does not want us to spend our hours, our minutes, and our days focused on getting over it. For rather, He wants us to look to sport. He wants us to look to competition. He wants us to look to athletics and focus our passion, our spirit, our energy on simply getting on with it. For those who compete in athletics will do what is hard and achieve what is great, because we come from a lineage, a heritage, a people that hungers for greatness. And it's with that let us say, Amen.
Thank you very much.